hello friends. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm your host, Zen Garcia.
Listen to Revolution Radio.
Welcome, friends, readers, listeners, and viewers from across America and around the world. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is All Things Esoteric with Erin, Moffett, and myself, our once a month show looking into all things weird and conspiratorial. Erin, are you there, sister?
I am here and I can hear you.
Okay, good. Because for a second there, I wasn't able to hear anything, but I'm glad it's all resolved now. And so we're going to begin this show. We had talked about a couple weeks ago, speaking about the what you're involved in with regard to your gold and silver business, and all. I think that precious metals and just putting away, even emergency food, which reminds me that this is the last week for those of you that may be interested to take advantage of the $100 off from My Patriot Supply Company. And it is the website is Preparing with Zen, I believe it is. Justin will put in the chat room for those of you guys that are interested. And I'll check just to make sure that that's the proper website, but you can get a 4-week emergency supply through them for this $100 off. And as I said, this is the last week to take advantage of this sale. But anyways, with regard to the craziness, the insanity that is happening all around the world, I mean, the whole thing with what's going on with the election and all that still unresolved. And so, just things are crazy out there in the world. And I think that everybody should, as much as they can, to prepare for just inconvenience. And even the scriptures say that there will be a day when it is peace, but then come sudden destruction. And so, those of you that remember back when Hurricane Katrina went through New Orleans and the levees, they say failed. I say they were made to fail, but anyways, there was no food able to get into the city, no trucks coming in or out, and no supplies. The grocery shelves went barren, and people starved and were unable to feed themselves. There were riots on the streets. There were gangs going door to door. And so you do not want to have to put up with or even, have to go through any kind of period of starvation. Things like just putting away a medical kit, batteries, again, emergency food and water supplies, just even if it's only for a month. I mean, even only for a week, which I think definitely you should have more than, the least is a 4-week supply in my opinion. But, even 6 months, if you can afford to do so, that would be a wise option. But I also think that, metals, precious metals, and even cryptocurrencies, in my opinion, are good assets to have just in case of insanity, which we are living in those times. So anyways, let me turn it back over to you, Erin, and if you would kind of tell us about what you do and why, others should also prepare, and the, kind of the things that you've also done to prepare for these times.
First of all, as usual, thank you. It's really nice that someone else would give me a platform and an opportunity to talk about this. I think that a lot of people think that because it's a gold and silver business that anyone can earn income, they kind of think, oh, well, I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want to hear about that. because they can think pyramid scheme, Ponzi scheme, and things like that. And so I appreciate the time that you're giving me. And I'll probably talk for a little bit. So you interrupt me at any point if you want to stop
Yeah,
me
no
or
worries.
ask a question.
Hmm.
I got into this. The why I got into this was 3.5 years ago. I was learning how to get out of debt, and
Important
that
thing.
was so good.
Very
I
important.
moved my family into a tiny little apartment, a basement apartment that my friend and landlord, who he's still my landlord, but I live in a much nicer house now. But it was a tiny little place that my friend and landlord rented to me. It was maybe 500 square feet. There wasn't even a living room. And there was a bathroom, a dining area, and two little tiny bedrooms with egress windows at least. But that's what I needed, was to downsize and to start learning to live
Hmm.
below my means. Stopped going out to eat or have breakfast. In fact, it's just my kids love it when we get to go out to a restaurant, but they understand that that's a privilege. We just don't do it that often. Stopped accruing debt. And so I started being able to get rid of debt just by stopping accruing debt.
Right.
Now, if I had just done what I did, which is to learn to live below my means and to continue making the kind of wage I was making to live in that apartment, I'd still be living there if somebody 3.5 years ago hadn't have given this opportunity to me of gold and silver. And it's my friend Bonnie. And it was on one of the worst days of my life. In fact, I had not, it wasn't like detrimentally bad, but you'll understand when I explain it. I had just signed up with a different um, MLM, multi-level marketing company called Rodan and Fields, which is a face cream company. And I bought in at $700, which to me is still worth it. I'm still part of the company and I use their products. It doesn't matter. But the point is that I just spent $700 on that. I had just ended a relationship with someone who took $600 from me and was never going to pay me back. And I was supposed to have my first little face cream party, right? So I went to this wine bar where my friend Bonnie works, and she goes, "What's up with all this stuff that you have?" And I said, "Well, I just signed up with this, and it's a terrible day, and I hope really nobody shows up because I just lost $600 with that guy, and I spent $700 getting into this." And she goes, immediately says, "Well, you should just do what I'm doing." And I'm like, "Really? Are you serious right now? Fine, what is it?" And she said, "Well, it's gold and silver." And I had no idea why I should care about gold and silver. So I want anyone here, if you don't know anything about gold and silver or why you should care, that was me 3.5 years ago. So I had no clue why I should care, but I sat down with her and another gal, and they made it sound like I could actually make money with this company, where these other companies, it's harder to earn an income. And I was like, okay, fine. So I dove in on another adventure into another multi-level marketing, not knowing one thing about gold and silver. But I'll tell you what, I'm so glad that she picked one of the worst days of my life to introduce a business to me that I could have just ignored, or she could have felt too embarrassed to tell me because, it was a bad day for me. She could have been like, "Oh, today's just not the day to tell Erin." But what I learned in the first 6 months was a lot of how not to do this, was how not to treat people, how not to push people, how not to strong arm them. And that's what I did for like the first 6 months until I finally learned why I'm supposed to care about gold and silver. And that happened in December. I think it was the 18th or so, or it was December 12th, maybe 2017. That's when it was. Yeah. And we had a little meeting in Idaho Falls, and it was little then because we were still a small company. And we had the owners, the co-founders, and one of them got up, and his name is Josh Anderson, and he taught us a little history lesson on Bretton Woods and the Federal Reserve. And it blew my mind, Zen. I had no idea 3.5 years ago. I had 3 years ago now, because it was 2017 in December. I didn't know about the Federal Reserve. I didn't know about inflation. I didn't know about Bretton Woods. I didn't know about Nixon and the gold standard. I knew none of that. None of it. And I was like, I've got to know more. I have to know more. And that just sent me in to a tailspin of research that led me down the road of other research that has led me ultimately to you and all these topics that I cover. And this has only been a 3-year journey, if you can believe it. But that's how excited I was to learn. And I started the YouTube channel because of the gold and silver company so that I could reach out to people, because all I wanted to do was get people to understand that they could know what I know. Somebody told me, now I want to tell you. I want to share with everybody who has ears to hear, not just the other stuff that I learned about. Obviously, I want to talk about Jesus. If you go back to my very first YouTube video, that's what I say. I want to I want people to know that I don't know where the Lord's going to take me with this channel. I said that. I said, I have no idea where the Lord's going to take me with this channel, but I know it's going to become something bigger than I could imagine. And it certainly has. It's just really, I've grown from it. I've gotten friends from that. But what's been more amazing is I've been able to share my knowledge of gold and silver with people who may already know. There's a lot of people that already buy it and they already get it, but maybe they didn't know they could get paid by a company to even talk about it or just get it at the best price. So that's the gist of this company. We sell gold and silver at the best price, and you can get paid to share that story.
That's awesome. With regard to I'm going to get you to give the specifics of how it is that you get paid. But before you do so, I just want to talk about a little bit about my background as well, because I've been investing in metals for a very long time, since silver was like $6 an ounce and gold was like $400 an ounce. So, I remember those were the prices when I first started to purchase. And I've been living on, disability, Social Security my whole life, so I didn't have a lot, but I learned really quickly, and this is a lesson I wish everybody could learn and understand, is that you have to learn not to live in debt. And if you learn to live below your means, then you can actually save and invest whatever it is that you can afford to do so. Back then, it was just starting a savings account and putting $25 a month into that and letting that accrue, and then using it to purchase whatever I could for whatever it was that I was interested. And back then, again, it was a lot of silver was really what I could afford, and smaller pieces of gold whenever I could do so. But learning to not be in debt and not overspend is the wisest thing anybody can do for their lives. And learning to be a saver, to where you're putting, even if it's only $10 a month away, to invest and in creating and using your money to create a return and to grow it. That's the smartest thing that anybody can learn to do, especially for young people. Because the sooner you begin to save, the sooner you begin to accrue, and the sooner you're able to put your money to work for you, the quicker the quantity will begin to swell up, and to and after 10 years of doing this and living like this, you'll have accumulated more than you can even imagine. And so, I tell people to start somewhere. And lately, I've been really interested in cryptocurrencies, and I've seen, at one time, I saw how all the internet stocks back in the 90s, all that became a massive explosion of wealth and interest, and nobody knew how to really put a price or value on what was this emerging new technology. And I feel like the cryptocurrency space is similar, in that really people that are investing in it are on the forefront of, in the same way, of this internet technology, which made a lot of people a lot of money back in the 90s and 2000s, and even still today. The internet is a staple, a huge part of everybody's life. But anyways, let me turn this back over to you, and if you would, explain how it is should somebody want to reach out to you or get involved, or seek a way to get involved with what you're doing, how it is that you're able to, or they would be able to, make money in doing this. Not to mention, just the prices of gold and silver are going up because of all the fiat, the nonstop printing of money. and the deflation of the currencies that's happening worldwide.
It's like you said, if you don't learn to live below your means or learn to understand why you're having a harder time paying your bills, paying for your food, paying for your water bill, your rent, and et cetera, and you're working harder for more money, it's because people don't understand inflation. And so until you can live below your own means and understand inflation, you're not going to know that you're not getting a pay raise enough to equal what inflation is doing. And they're going to hide true inflation because they're going to say, well, the inflation, they're only going to look at certain commodities or things like that. And they being the governments, and they're going to say inflation is only going up by this much. So don't worry about it. But they're hiding the actual true inflation and how much it is going up. And so people will think, well, I'm in debt right now, but it'll be fine in 5 years. We'll get out of this debt in 5 years. If you don't do what I did and what Zen said you need to do, which is first understand how to live at least within your means or below your means, you're never going to get out of that debt. Not in 5 years, not in 10, it's only going to get worse.
Right.
That's everybody. And so this company offers a way to earn an income, even if you have a full-time job. You could just do it part-time. You don't have to earn an income. That's what I really want people to understand. We sell gold and silver at the best price, and it's always a good time to buy because you have to get price out of your head and understand value. Once you understand that gold and silver has value because of the human effort it takes to get it out of the ground and refine it into what it is, it's massive. No, it's not easy for someone to just go out and do that on their own. It takes a lot of people, which is why we have gold and silver mines. And so when you look at the human effort and that it's finite, and it has been for 5,000-6,000 years, been money because of that reason, it's hard for people to understand what will be money without a dollar. But I want, if you guys can, and maybe you already know, so if I'm speaking to the choir, I apologize. But if you don't know, get the dollar out of your head and quit worrying about the price because it's always a good time to buy. And if you say, well, I don't have 2 pennies to rub together, well, if you get in with this company, it is what's called multi-level marketing. That's not a pyramid and a Ponzi scheme. The pyramid is the basic job where there's CEOs at the top, and then there's managers, and then there's people below them, the people that want to pep you up and tell you how to do your job that get paid more than you, but they don't even know how to do your job. And then you're at the bottom. That's the pyramid. What a Ponzi scheme is when money is funded into a business, and the only way people get paid back is when more money funded into it. But if everybody figured it out, because the Ponzi scheme is that they're really not making funds off of a product or anything. They're making funds off of all the investors. And so if everybody figured it out, wanted to pull their money out, that'd blow up the Ponzi scheme. What does that sound like to you, Zen? A bank? Kind of sounds like a bank.
Right.
So people
yeah,
love
even
their
the whole Federal Reserve System, and the dollar itself is a huge Ponzi scheme because it's backed by no value. Nothing but the goodwill and faith of the American government.
Precisely. So I say to people, even if it turns out to be a Ponzi scheme, which I know it isn't, but even if it were, it would get you out from under the biggest Ponzi scheme that the world has ever had to endure, which is paying income tax to the federal government.
No doubt.
So
That's
once
a whole nother thing.
It's a whole nother thing. So I won't get into that because learning that blew my mind too.
Yeah.
But basically, when you sign up with this company, you're a member. And with any membership, whether it's to the NRA or to a gym or anywhere that you guys are members to something, you get benefits, membership benefits. And one of those is getting wholesale prices of gold and silver. And that means it's going to be better than APMEX. It's going to be better than JM Bullion. It's going to be better than SD Bullion. And what people will do is they'll either do not a real-time comparison, or they'll compare apples to oranges. But if you carefully compare, like a Silver Eagle on our website to a Silver Eagle on APMEX or something, or even I guess Walmart is selling these things now, selling gold and silver now. But if you compare them in real time while the market's open, you'll find that there could be a $5 to $10 difference between our prices and somebody else's. It'll look like their price is close, but then when you go to buy it, you have to buy 500 before you get the price, even close to the price we have, and we're still less. By then it's maybe 30 cents, but you don't have to buy 500 of ours to get the best price. And so if you're going to start making good habits, like you said, start investing in something, learning to live below your means, wanting to have a better purchasing power, and I'll explain what that means in just a second, then you're going to want to start buying it now. You're not going to want to wait And now again, you say I don't have two pennies to rub together. Well, if you can, we do have a membership sign up fee just like Costco, and I know a lot of people have Costco memberships. If you're really interested and you don't have a lot of money, there's always things we can cut out. Just like you and I talked about living below your means. We know that there's things you and I could cut out of our personally right now. I know there's things I could cut out of my monthly stuff that I do that wouldn't be that big of a deal, and I could come up with $200 in no time. So people can sign up. They sign up at the annual fee, which is $200 or $500. You can choose, and anyway, I won't get into all of it because it doesn't. Either way, it gets you started. The way you earn income is like what I'm doing now. I just tell somebody about it. I told my parents first. I told my friends first. I try to compare it like you found a gold mine. When we did, it's gold. But the great thing is there's so much gold in there. If first you're just going to tell the people you trust because you don't want to tell a whole bunch of people. You're not going to go to Facebook and put an ad out, come help me dig out this gold from the gold mine, or you're not going to go to the unemployment line, come help me. You're going to tell the people you love and trust first, and then you're going to realize there's enough for everybody, and then you're going to want to tell everybody. That's what I compare it to. So when you tell people and they sign up, that's how you earn the income, is when other people sign up. And it's not a percentage. There's no math. You don't have to go, oh, I got to get 4 people here and then 6 people here. You just got to basically get 2 people, and then you're eligible for income. So it's not difficult. It's simple, easy. I wouldn't say easy, but you just got to understand this is a product that sells itself. So you shouldn't be afraid of the product. You can know that you're not going to screw anybody over by saying, well, you should buy a whole bunch of gold and silver. And then a year later, they have a bunch of gold and silver, and they go, man, I don't like that 7K metals business. All I've got is gold and silver. Well, then they're just crazy. Who's going to be mad about that? At least it's not going to be a bunch of stuff that's going to expire. So even if in a year they didn't do anything, didn't want to earn the income, just bought the gold and silver, there's that benefit. And I'll always be grateful for this company for teaching me. That's another thing they do is they teach us. They give us training. If we don't really know what we're doing, they train us with short videos. They're super simple. But you also have me. If you sign up with me, I help you. That you just get 2 people, and you get those 2 people interested, and you teach them how to tell 2 people, and you teach them how to tell 2 people, and it's that simple. And you're earning $250 to $500 a week if you want to, or more.
Awesome. And the other great thing about gold and silver is that it is appreciating while most everything else is depreciating. And so whatever you are buying now, in my opinion, the spot price for silver and gold will increase over the next few years, and exponentially so. People are expecting, even some are calling for $10,000 an ounce on gold and $100 an ounce on silver, which if it reaches those lofty prices, whatever you're putting in now, you're basically 5x your money on silver, because it's like almost $25 an ounce right now. And so, just whatever you are saving yourself has the possibility of increasing in value, and whatever you are helping your friends, because most people would like to build and to create and to invest. And with silver, it's not that expensive to do so. You don't need a lot of money. Even if you're just putting $25 a month away, one silver eagle, that's still accruing and building up. And over time, you're going to have a decent amount of silver, and that's going to be a pool of money, and it's liquid. You can always sell silver and gold and turn it back into cash if you need to. I've been buying off of eBay for years, selling on eBay for years, and that market is still available, and it's not hard to do so. And so I don't know a lot about Erin's business, and but definitely I want to learn more about what you're into. But I do know that having been a a person to buy and sell silver and gold for many, many, many years now. That, like I said, when I first started, silver was $4 to $6 an ounce, which is already 4 times what it is now. Oh, and also I remember a time when I first started investing in metals, that palladium, which is another precious metal, but palladium was like, I think $30 an ounce at that time. And I wish I would have known and would have bought more than what I did. I think I have a little bit of palladium somewhere. But anyways, palladium is now $2,300 an ounce and is more valuable than platinum. Whereas at that time, platinum was 3 times the price of gold. Gold was $400 an ounce. Platinum was $1,200 to $1,600 an ounce. And like I said, palladium was almost as cheap as silver. And now that's flip-flop. And so you never know, how much metals will increase in value. And so you can buy a little of all the different ones that you can afford to get. And if silver happens to do what palladium did, well, you'll be sitting really well. And also, if it came to a time of where things shut down and you have to barter, it would be a lot easier to barter silver for food or, other commodities or services in a time when it would take maybe a wheelbarrow of cash to purchase some kind of commodity. And so you just never know about the times that are coming, about the times that we're living in, and about what's ahead. But certainly, the writing is on the wall with regard to the deflationary and how governments, everybody, I mean, we are at negative interest rates. The banks don't even pay you to hold your money anymore. You have to pay them to keep your money, which is absolutely ludicrous. Why would you have anybody hold your money and then have them charge you, to hold it for you? It's absolutely ridiculous. And so those of you that can, as I said, you should look into other avenues for investing. Also, I told people that 2 weeks ago, I'm going to start a show, Cryptocurrencies for Ding Dongs, which I consider myself a ding dong because I don't often make wise choices. But I think we are all foolish at some point with some of the things. We're human. We're sinners. And so for those that know nothing about cryptocurrencies at all, don't even know how to go about purchasing or buying, I'm going to teach you, I'm going to show you. And also, even with just signing up with Coinbase, you can gain access to $180 in cryptocurrency absolutely free without ever having to purchase anything. And that's just in signing up and watching a few videos and taking a few tests. And so I'll do that. It'll probably be next week or the week after, depending on availability and on my schedule. But that's something that I'm going to, help those of you that might be interested in doing that as well. But let me turn it back over to you, Erin, and continue with anything else you'd like to say with this. And then whenever you're ready, we'll go into the show topics that you wanted to bring forth this evening.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about purchasing power and give an example. I bought some silver at $17 an ounce from a guy on the same day that it was selling for $27 an ounce. And I told him that. I said, you could go to a coin shop. You don't have to, I was buying a whole bunch, 70 ounces from him. But he's like, no, I'll just sell it to you. So having told him the truth about what he could have gotten from the coin shop, I bought it for $17 an ounce from him. I immediately went to the coin shop and traded in 12 of those ounces for a $300 coin that I wanted. So when you do the math, and anyone, if you have a calculator, you can do that. But I got $26 a piece. And so
Nice.
I ended up paying $204 for the $300 coin. So that's what purchasing power is that the price of silver is going up. And it doesn't mean it's too late to start buying it, because it's going to keep going up. It's been higher than it is now. And it's
Right.
also not volatile. It doesn't go up and down and up and down and up and down. It gradually goes up. And then it has these little jumps every once in a while, especially in a crisis or the crash of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that way, I was able to purchase something for less dollars because I bought the silver first. And then I went in and traded in for a higher price. Now, normally you don't do that in the same day, but that's just a good example of it, of what you can do even in a same year. Only last year I was buying silver at $14 an ounce.
Right.
So I have a whole bunch of silver that I did buy at $14 an ounce. The reason I took his particular silver in was because they'd been in a fire. They were all exactly the same, and I just didn't care about them that much, and so I wasn't trying to keep them. I'd rather trade those ugly rounds in than some of my nicer silver eagles or something. And then lastly, we had a couple people, not very many. Most people have been very gracious, very gracious. So thank you everybody for giving me this time and listening, because it is important. We're not trying to grow our business. We're trying to help the people that we have a reach to. And if you don't see it like that, then that's okay. We'll live, we'll be fine. But what we want to do is help other people learn what we learned. That you've known longer than I have, but there was a time you didn't know, unless, some people are brought up knowing about gold and silver, and then blessings to know these things. But I guarantee you, most people under the age of most people, it doesn't even matter what age, most people don't understand crypto. They don't understand,
Right.
they don't understand gold and silver. And that's too bad, getting some people putting a little bit of, negative comments in here, don't like it. But what's sad is we're trying to help other people. It's not sad. What's good is we're trying to help. If you don't see
Right.
that, then I'm sorry to the people who don't see it, and truly, because we don't, even if my business never grew, I tell people you can email me and I will answer all your questions about gold and silver, and you never have to buy any of it from my business. And I will still help you whatever way you need. If you just want to know you want to buy it from another company, at least you're buying it. And if somebody did that for me and told me, I'm still going to answer your question, I'm going to help you understand this, that would be a blessing. That would have been a blessing, and it was. Somebody taught me about gold and silver, and now I know all about it, and now I can share it with you. And so that's what this is about. It's not about an infomercial or growing our businesses, but we have businesses, we're trying to show you a way that you don't get locked down. You don't have to wear a mask. You don't have to get a vaccine. You don't get laid off. I would really think that that'd be something people would want. If they want to get
Right.
into crypto, they want to get into gold and silver, that's going to help them get out of that 9-to-5 W-2 job that's
Exactly.
going to require a vaccine to work
Right.
there.
Right. And it's something that you can learn to do and be your own boss, set your own hours. And if you learn, the even like with crypto and how to trade, but not even that. I mean, what I'm going to teach people is just dollar cost averaging, which is basically, what you're doing and just purchasing silver every month. You don't have to learn to trade, or you just want to be able to put a little bit aside every year. I mean, every month, or however much you can. But more importantly, and this is something that I'm so grateful that I learned young, even 20, 30 years now. And it's something that I wish that everybody could learn. And this is the way that you get your freedom. Because if you learn to be financially um, free, to where you're not over leveraging yourself, you're not um, putting yourself in debt, that's the number one thing. If you can learn to live without putting yourself in debt, without using credit cards, I mean, yeah, keep them there in emergency, but don't just buy stuff you don't need and then have to pay interest on it. most people don't even understand how credit cards work and don't understand how you are hurting yourself and by overusing and spending money you don't have. Whereas if you were to free yourself up from debt and save a little bit and then put that savings towards something that could accrue in value, that would work more for your freedom and also in developing a nest egg for retirement. Because the sad thing is in this country, the government doesn't pay for your health care. And it's unfortunate that it's not a citizen's right. And I think that in the least, government with all the taxes that they're taking from you illegally, that, they should be able to help with not just infrastructure, but with education and healthcare and things of that nature. But they don't. And it's unfortunate because America is supposed to be, the greatest country in the world, the most wealthy and most powerful. And yet we have people living on the streets and dying of starvation, and a lot of veterans that have no place to go, and that have nowhere to live other than on the streets or in a tent. And it's a sad situation because in this country we throw away more food than would be enough to feed everybody that's probably starving in the world. I mean, the amount of, buffets and the amount of food that is thrown out every day from grocery stores and restaurants it's unfortunate, because it could certainly feed a lot of people. And it's just, scarcity and all of that. It's created. It's not natural, because God has created the earth in a way that there's overabundance. There should be plenty for everybody so that every child can grow up with enough nourishment and without having to suffer. But yet it's people that cause a division of as far as the goods and services and supply and demand, and inflate prices, and just create poverty. And Satan certainly wants people to struggle and not have time to dedicate to reading the scriptures or serving God or prioritizing the kingdom. And first and foremost, I know there's a lot of people that, may be against the topics that we're talking about here, but I believe that helping others to be knowledgeable about financial freedoms and also to not have to struggle, that this is part of a duty of a watchman in serving the kingdom and helping your brother. You teach a man to fish, and not just have to give them fish. It's like one of the things that we do with all of the orphanages that we support is that we make sure that they're not just purchasing food to feed the children every month, but that they are, getting chickens that lay eggs, and that they can then use the chickens or the eggs to barter, something that will create self-sustainability, and then afterwards, if you can, cows, milk, whatever, those kind of things. But that instead of just spending money trying to feed yourself every month, that you figure out a way to grow your prosperity so you don't have to struggle or suffer. And this is the way of it. Really, everybody should be learning to achieve self-sustainability and self-sufficiency. And there's different ways. I mean, there's so many ways that people can take advantage of, especially in this day and age when we have access to the internet, and when you can, set up a show to where you can have AdSense even assist you without it affecting anybody. I mean, there's different ways that people can become, self-employed or self-entrepreneurs without having to even do a whole lot. There's many ways you can learn different techniques to take advantage of the internet and being, especially now, that so many are locked in their homes and unable to go out and mingle with crowds and people. And we're living in a very strange time in a very strange world where restaurants and bars and huge sporting events and concert venues and all of that, it's been shut down. And those kind of people, the tourist industry and those people that made their livelihoods off supporting people that travel and spend money in their travels, um, they're having to learn to do something different. And so what Erin and I are talking about, it may be beneficial, even if it's not beneficial for you and you don't appreciate the information. That's fine. You don't have to listen. You can turn this show off and tune back in on the next one. Um, we are going to try to help people in many different ways and many different facets and whatever way we can. And I guarantee you, there are others out there that do appreciate this information and that will be interested and that will want to learn. Because, as I said, in my lifetime, in my experience, uh, investing in gold and silver has been very beneficial. And it's mostly been, as I said, just investing in silver because I could not afford gold. And, unless it was very small pieces, 1/10 ounce and sometimes maybe a 1/4 ounce, but certainly not any huge pieces. Um, but again, just in my lifetime, I've seen silver. And there was a time when it went up to $55 an ounce. And that was, pretty amazing. I was able to sell a few sets while the price was that high. It didn't stay that high for very long. But, the silver hung around in the $30 range there for a little while after that drop as well. And so if you're selling at spot and just taking advantage of accruing, even like with what Erin said, last year silver was $14 an ounce, and it had been that way for many years. Probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, it was around that price. And so everything that you would have purchased then, you're almost doubling now. And so, and as I said, it's my opinion that silver will reach all-time highs as gold did. Recently, gold breached its all-time highs, and it's almost going to be $2,000 an ounce. And I think it's going to continue to appreciate because of the uncertainty in the times. Governments, their currencies are collapsing. The people don't trust their local currencies. This is, in Venezuela and other places, Greece and other places. And so that's a lot of why gold has been accruing, and also why cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, which is digital gold, has also been accruing. But we'll talk more about that in the show that I do, as I said, within a couple weeks. I did just recently let people know on my Facebook page, however, that there are 2 cryptocurrencies right now that will pay you just for holding them. There's one called DIA, which has a snapshot so that whatever you have in your exchange accounts of that cryptocurrency, it's going to give you so much more just for having it. And that will occur on December 10th, which is tomorrow night. And then there's another cryptocurrency called XRP, which is called Ripple. And this token is only 54 5 cent a coin right now. And it's going to take a snapshot of whatever you have in your exchange accounts um, on the 12th of December at midnight. And it's going to match you. It's going to give you a free, what is called a Spark token, which is part of a new Flare network. And so if you have even $500 worth of Ripple token, which, that's that would be 1,000 tokens. They're going to give you 1,000 Spark tokens for free. And, again, this happens on the 12th of December. So if you're interested in what I'm talking about, you can either email me, zengarcia2010 @gmail.com, or go to my Facebook page and read the post that I just put out. It'll give you details, and it will also link the articles that give you more information on what I'm talking about. But this is an easy way to take advantage of getting free cryptocurrency again, and even doubling as far as XRP what you may be holding, even for 4 days. Whatever you accrue now up until the 12th, they're going to give you 1-to-1 what's called the Spark token, and that will go out in March. And so just another way to take advantage of, again, the newness of the cryptocurrency space and the ease of investing in some of these digital commodities. But anyways, let me turn it back over to you, Erin.
I wanted to address a good point somebody made in the chat, that the Bible does say there will be a time that they are throwing their gold and silver in the streets. And then we had somebody else make a great response to that of course that will be the last thing they're throwing out in the streets, because it'll be the last thing that has value. And I do refer to that scripture when I talk about this business, and I remind people, I said, we're not there yet, or else we'd be throwing our dollars into the streets. So since we still need our dollars, since we still have to pay bills that way, since we still have to get gas that way and food that way, then we can still utilize gold and silver, very much so. Even if this vaccine is the mark of the beast and the end is nigh, we're still supposed to continue working, because Jesus is going to come like the Galilean wedding when we don't know. He's going to come in the middle of the night at some time we don't know, and we have to be with our lamps ready. We have to be prepared, but we're not supposed to stop working and just get rid of all our dollars and gold and silver and say, well, forget it, the end is coming, so I'm just going to sit here and wait and not purchase anything, not pay my bills. And I know that that's not what she's saying. She's not saying that's what she's doing. So this is why I'm saying we can still utilize these things like the cryptocurrency and the gold and silver, because we are still paying our bills and we are still buying food and we are still putting gas in our cars. And until we can't do that anymore, then there's a reason to have gold and silver to help our purchasing power, to have more dollars down the road, or even like I had in one day. It was a great happenstance for me, but it doesn't always take that long for your purchasing power to improve. But like I said, it's always a good time to buy, because it's going to help you no matter what, because it's not the dollar we should want. We should want the things that we will be able to utilize, that we will be able to trade with. And like you talked about self-sufficiency. One of my things I used to say a lot, and I should remember to say again, is if you want to become self-sufficient, I think, and this is my personal opinion, that buying gold is the first easiest thing you can do. Or silver, excuse me. Buying gold and silver is the first easiest step you can take, and then we can learn all the other things together. So that's why you and I talk about these things, is we want to do more than just get people to buy gold and silver and crypto. We want them to be able to live without a grid, to have solar power, to grow their own food.
Right. Yes.
How great would that be?
Right. Absolutely. And again, it's not about, because yes, I'm very familiar with that particular scripture, but still, in the interim, until Yahushua comes again, and I'm looking forward to the time when we don't have to worry about, because there will be no more money, and everybody will be taken care of in the time that the kingdom is set up. But until then, we live in the matrix, and the matrix says that you have to pay your bills, you have to live, and you have to make a certain amount of money in order to sustain yourself, without accruing debt. And you have to live above that debt level in order to maintain comfort and maintain peace in your life. Otherwise, you struggle and you stress. And so we're trying to teach people how not to struggle and stress, and also how to turn your fortune into something that will benefit you instead of hurting you. Because again, if you're just holding dollars, and this is something that an individual named Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy just recently did. He realized that if he were to hold cash in his reserves, even his personal wealth or that of his company, he would end up losing money and bleeding out his wealth. And that just holding cash, he would eventually have it dissipate. And so he converted all of his money and his company's money into Bitcoin. And just recently, even just this year, he's made $400 million off just converting his cash into Bitcoin, because he was buying it at $11,000 an ounce, and now Bitcoin went almost to its all-time high, and it's $18,000 right now, but it was almost $20,000, 19,400 something is what it was just even a week ago. And so individuals are making decisions to put money, instead of holding dollars, to put it into something that will retain its value, its store of wealth. And all we're saying is that people should consider silver, gold if you can afford it, or other digital cryptocurrencies, which may hold their value better than dollars. And so we're just trying to explain options for people, and also that, you know, the cryptocurrency space is the only place that I've seen that where, like internet stocks back in the 90s, you could 10x, 50x your money. And I'm not, I am not at all a financial advisor, and I don't even concern myself with money, or, even though I've learned to invest over the years of, learning to get myself out of debt. But that's not my focus at all. And the shows that we do where we cover these kind of topics, we don't do these kind of shows very often at all. But again, I think it's important for people to know. And I know that I can help others at least consider, and perhaps those of you that are interested in what we're talking about, you can learn. You can learn from our experience, and maybe it would benefit you. Because I know also that there's a lot of you out there that are struggling, that, are having a hard time even making enough to feed yourself and your families. And so you should look at your lives, because a lot of people are living beyond their means, living in debt. And there's ways to reduce your debt, to get yourself out of debt, and to invest in a way that would benefit yourself. And that if you applied yourself in this manner, 2 or 3 years down the road, you could have a complete turnaround in your life, and you can find yourself in a situation where you don't have to stress over money, over, concerning yourself with, are you going to have enough to feed yourself and your family, your children? Or are you going to be able to even pay your bills? Or if your car breaks down, are you going to be able to keep it together to maintain, to keep life rolling in the way that you're used to? And so there's a beautiful thing to not having to stress or to worry about those kind of things as well. But we are at the break, and so we're gonna pause here, and we will be right back for a second hour, and then we'll go into some of these other topics. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, post them in the chat room. We'll check it out over break. We'll be right back, everyone.
As a bookstore for truth seekers, it's our goal to make ancient manuscripts which were once held captive by secretive institutions available for public consideration. In our generation, where wisdom has increased, as Daniel the prophet foretold, we have access to many of the testimonies our early church brethren were persecuted for preserving. After being hidden for centuries, these manuscripts have been leaked from various sources throughout the earth, and it's our goal to gather these sources into printable form to make available for all who seek the ancient way. If you're looking to deepen your studies of the biblical narrative, find these ancient manuscripts and more at sacredwordpublishing.com.
Many truth seekers are constantly studying alone. But there is a place where we can come together. The Digital Readers Club is our online ecclesia meant for those who've forsaken churchianity but still want the closeness of a family to study with. Join us every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to put together the puzzle pieces of truth scattered throughout the ancient scriptures. Every day, questions arise.
Are the stories in the Bible true?
What if I told you that there are hundreds of confirming witnesses?
Which give intricate detail to the stories in the Bible.
Have you ever found yourself deep in the rabbit hole with questions that no one seemed to have the answers to? Join us the second Friday of every month at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for our Ask Me Anything series with author and researcher Zen Garcia, as he sheds light on the mysteries which have us all searching together.
Your partnership with Sacred Word Publishing goes further than the publishing of ancient manuscripts and weekly video content.
You also make a huge impact across the earth in orphanages in Myanmar, India, Uganda, and Kenya.
Your support is crucial for the development of the ecclesia of real truth seekers.
We thank you for joining us in hosting Secrets Revealed, Momentary Zen, the Digital Readers Club, Ask Me Anything series, and other shows that have helped lead so many to the truth of salvation.
To become even more involved, please visit patreon.com/sacredwordpublishing, where you can partake in exclusive, interactive, patron-only content and help us continue shining the light of love in this darkened world.
All right, welcome back, everybody, for second hour. I'm your host, Zen Garcia, and this is our All Things Esoteric show, where I'm joined by my good friend and kind sister, Erin Moffett, who is in Montana. I'm here on the East Coast, United States of America, near Athens, Georgia. And so, how's the weather out there, Erin? It's got to be kind of cold now, huh?
You would think. I got a sunburn today working outside on my face.
What?
My face is so warm. Yeah, it was in the 50s at least today.
Wow.
And I'm helping a friend. He's just finishing up this house. And so I get to do some of the cleaning work at the end of all this. And my face must have burned because it is hot and I'm not feeling embarrassed or mad or shy or anything. So it must be the sun that I got today.
Wow, that's unreal, because Some of the best years of my life were the winters that I spent in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And oh my goodness, it would get almost negative 50 degrees there over the course of the winter, which I know it's not yet winter, that the winter
Could
solstice
get
is
that
on
bad.
on the 20th or 21st of this month. But already here in Georgia, it's cooling off. We're about in the 50s as well. I just figured it was probably a lot colder up north, but yeah. And so you wanted to talk about the pagan origins of
Mhm.
the holidays, and so let's go into that.
Well, real quick, somebody did ask you a question that I don't have the answer to
Yeah, sure.
about how do you purchase things with cryptocurrency?
Oh, that's a really great question. And right now, that infrastructure is being established. Just like when the internet was being, built out, and the web browsers and all of that came online, and people were beginning to be able to even utilize it. And then, email came into being, and then people started buying up all the different um, websites and the domain names. And that was also something that became available. And a lot of people, purchasing just different names, they have made a fortune off of having done that in the early, like the people that bought Coke as a domain name. They ended up getting very well paid. But anyways, we're still at that phase where the cryptocurrency infrastructure is being established. And even though you can utilize certain cryptocurrencies for purchasing different items, the adaption is still in process. Like, for instance, it's just been this month that PayPal has joined and allowed people to start purchasing cryptocurrencies by using the money you have, with them. And it was only recently that credit cards would even allow you to purchase cryptocurrency. They would not support it, and support your ability to purchase it. And so it's been difficult for people to even invest in it as a subset of the investment, as far as portfolios and the different uh, means that people have been, like, you can easily purchase stocks, bonds, open up options, trade forex. All those things are really easy. You can get set up and doing that in a day. And those kind of things are being now set up for crypto. But the ability to use it as, as currency, like your dollars, that has not been built out yet. But that is coming. And so there will be a time where everybody will have a digital cryptocurrency wallet on their phone with multiple different types of crypto within it. And you'll be able to use different ones to pay for, even when you go to the store, in my opinion. Even for gas, that there's going to be all kind of different cryptos that you can use to purchase different commodities. And, again, we're at the forefront of all of that. It's not been set up yet. And so it's not easy. And that's why, as I said, a lot of cryptocurrencies remain very cheap. And the entire space itself is only $450 billion. It's less than $1 trillion market, which gold is like a 600-700 trillion-dollar market. And so when the infrastructure is built out and people start putting even 1 to 5% of their wealth into cryptocurrencies, um, the possibility of the prices that they are at right now are going to be so inflated. And that's why, I've been advising people, even though I'm not a financial advisor, but I have been recommending that people come to learn about the space and go ahead and start investing. Because as I said, even Bitcoin is at its all-time highs. It's almost $20,000 a coin. And there was a time where it was less than $1 a coin. And the people that got in at that time are literally cryptocurrency millionaires and billionaires. And so, there could be a chance, because as I said, it's still early adoption and less than 1% of the population, just like knowledge of flat earth. Most people have no idea as to biblical cosmology. In the same manner, most people have no concern and no understanding of how to invest in cryptocurrency. And I think that once you have 5-10% of the world population flood into this space, excuse me, that the people that have already entered and have already begun to invest in this space, they will greatly benefit. And so that's why I'm going to start teaching others about it and helping others to become more familiar with it, because I do believe that it will benefit them in a way that people can't even imagine right now. But let me turn it back over to you, Erin.
I'm glad you're doing that. That's exactly what my channel is. And we will move on so, everybody can be happy, because the title is about pagan Christmas. And the reason I wanted to talk about the pagan Christmas is because this is my first year without a tree. And so I was convicted last year, but I had the tree up already before I watched my first video on why I should or should not have a Christmas tree. And I said to the girls, I have 2 children and they're 7 and 9 years old. So I told them last year, I said, this is the last year we're going to have a tree. So they've had a year to understand that we're not going to decorate for Christmas.
Right.
But what's really cool is that I'm getting into learning about the feast days and why those should be what we do instead of Easter and instead of Christmas and these other pagan holidays. But I don't know a lot about it. And I know that you do. And then, so the way I learn is first, I just watch videos, right? And then I try to research it to a point where I can talk about it. It was the same with the gold and silver. I try to get to a point where I can talk about it at least well enough that I can explain to somebody why I've made that choice. And I'll tell you, my parents did not like this choice that I've made. And even though I thought I'd been kind of talking about it for a year, it turns out my dad is gravely disappointed that I would believe that Christmas is pagan and that we can't turn it around for Jesus somehow. And again, I'm not telling anybody else what to do. I'm not telling my parents not to celebrate Christmas or my friends or anybody. I'm telling them what we've decided. Right. And people kind of take great offense to that, just like I'm sure with a lot of truth. And so he said, I also hope you're not sharing this kind of information, because I had sent him a video from Truth Unedited, which had just done a really nice little shout out to Truth Unedited, who's a huge channel already, right? Doesn't need any shout outs, but it was just put together nicely with a good explanation of where the pagan holiday came from. And so, when I wanted to learn more about flat earth, you let me come on and ask questions. And I think that it's good for people. Maybe everybody here already knows Zen, but that was kind of the way it was with flat earth, right? A lot of people were already there, but I wasn't. And I'll tell you, I've heard from a few people behind the scenes that they were glad that I came and asked those questions, because they were sometimes the questions that they had. But when you're in a group of people that kind of already get it, you're a little bit afraid to ask. So,
yeah.
So I'm sure you understand a lot about the history of the Christmas tree and the pagan holiday. And real quick, before I ask you to teach us, I heard a song today that was supposed to be Christian, and the song was about a granddad telling his grandson what Christmas means to him. And literally the chorus was to point to the star. and they're trying to say that Jesus is the star of Christmas. But what I learned about the Christmas tree and what the star actually means, I was like, oh no, these people are bought and sold as bad as any secular artist. But anyway, I thought, it'd be, I don't know if you want to just do a general education to anybody who doesn't know or where you want to start. But what I learned, first of all, to be able to talk about myself was the Christmas tree, and then some of the pagan roots of Saturnalia and things like that, or Santa, or I just figured you could teach us some stuff.
Yeah, I will certainly assist, but I'm not proclaiming myself to be any great expert. But with regard to what I've learned in regard to the tree, and also to other symbologies that are connected to, because in my opinion, the Christmas tree is a phallic symbol, and it actually is associated to what the elites worship as their origin, as far as the beguilement of Eve, and what happened in Genesis chapter 3, where the serpent beguiling Eve, impregnated her and brought forth Cain, who is their progenitor, and he being the child of the wicked one. That is how they found origin in this time-space dimensionality. And so you see things, not only is the serpent, the feathered serpent, worshipped in antediluvian times, but also that's why you see things like the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and also, that the tree is a representation of, again, a phallic symbol, and also you have the egg, or the yoni, which is an egg, and that even the egg in Easter, which comes from Astarte, the goddess, the goddess of the pantheon of gods and goddesses, and she is the Semiramis figure in the unholy Trinity. But anyway, as you see, these symbols are worshipped by the elites in the sexual iconography, that these things, in what I've studied and what I've learned, they are connected again to what occurred in the garden, and to how the devil and his children found freedom, because they always speak about, in the mystery schools, in the esoteric religions, they celebrate what Prometheus bringing fire to the earth and giving it to the humans, that it represents Lucifer as the light bringer, that he sacrificed himself according to their teaching. He sacrificed himself on behalf of humanity, so that we could have free will to know and to experience pain, pleasure, light, darkness, good, and evil. And so they've turned things upside down, and they celebrate Lucifer as the god of liberation, and as their god of free will and freedom, and that he gave us opportunity when the God of the Old Testament, what they say, Yahuwah, Yahweh, Jehovah, Yahweh, that this God had only wanted to suppress us and to keep us in bondage, and to not allow us to soil our oats, so to speak, is what they teach. But certainly we see that in Jeremiah chapter 10, we are warned against, following in the ways of the pagans, and in celebrating, cutting down a Christmas tree and decorating it in gold and silver tinsel, and putting ornamentation upon it, and having it in our living rooms as a representation, again, as a giant phallic symbol, which is exactly what it is. And if people that don't understand that, It's not difficult to look and to examine and to study, especially in this day of the internet, that if you look up the pagan origins of both Easter and Christmas, and you realize that Yeshua was not born in the middle of December, and that December 25th is actually a celebration of, as you say, Saturnalia, and also the winter solstice, and that the 25th of December is the 3 days after the solstice, when they say that, the sun rising again reverses course in the sky, and the shortest day of the year, that the sun is starting to elongate the day by 4 minutes each day and each evening. But what have you learned or studied from it?
Well, like I said, a lot of it was really more about the tree to begin with, but that a lot of other pagan gods celebrate their birthday apparently on December 25th, and I don't have it written down, but there's several of them that we could find. But I guess a lot of what is interesting is that one of the ones that I watched was really good. Talked about, if you look in the scriptures, it talks about trees a lot and what the tree means, and the tree often means people or a person.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And
The
that
family tree of humanity.
right. And that's what scripture refers to often, even like when Satan will be cut down like a fallen tree, chopped down in Isaiah 14. And so, and then also when Christians try to point to the Christmas tree, I think it was in Isaiah 11 to 14, it's not saying get a tree and decorate it. It's saying don't do these things.
Right.
And then also that, like you were talking about the tree of knowledge. Well, they had it in medieval plays, a tree of paradise, where they'd hang apples representing the forbidden fruit, which are now the glass bulbs. But so if the tree represents people or a person, let's say it's a kingdom of people, and what we put at the top of it often is a star, which could just, you could say, well, that's about Lucifer. You could just say the star, that's Lucifer. You could say that, but it wouldn't maybe have as good of an argument as when you look at when they have the angels at the top, and the angel often holds like a harp or some kind of instrument, or holds two candles. And so if you look at the upside downness of the pagan holiday in the tree, we could say that represents Lucifer at the top, and he's trying to be over the kingdom of man. And that's kind of what I learned about the tree. And I thought, and I learned that last year, and I thought, there's no way I want to have a tree in my house if it means Lucifer at the top of the kingdom of humanity, which he would wish to do. He would wish to take over the throne and control us and be over all of us. And so again, this is my first year without a tree, and it's neat to find out that a lot of my listeners have never said anything to me about my belief about Christmas or having a tree, and it's neat to find out that many of them have been without trees for years. They're throwing that up there. Oh, it's my 5th year. Oh, it's my 3rd year. And I just think that's so nice to hear people sharing that with me, and that they haven't been telling me I need to do it this way or that way. And as far as the holiday of Saturnalia itself, I haven't gone into a lot of research of that part yet. Again, I've listened to videos on it, but I wouldn't say that I'd be able to repeat it or explain to people. I think it was a holiday of a lot of probably drinking and partying and maybe even sexual type of stuff, orgies. Okay. And so, when you think about that, and people want to say, well, it's not that anymore, and Jesus is bigger than that. And that's true. So that's, I guess, why I wouldn't tell somebody they can't celebrate Jesus's birth on Christmas. But it is shocking now that I've come to what I know so well to see how many churches have a Christmas tree in them. Almost every church has a Christmas tree. Every Christian friend I know has a Christmas tree. And when I told one of my friends that I wasn't going to be doing this anymore, she first looked at me like I had 3 heads, but then she was kind enough to say, well, there's things that I think I have to do for myself and my children. And my family doesn't agree with it, but you're the one in control. You're the one that's going to bring up your kids the way you think is right. So I do
Right.
have good friends that way in real
That's
life.
awesome.
But it's it is hard. And somebody in the chat said God hates the feast days. And why don't you tell me what you think? Because I'm learning about the feast days, and Jesus celebrated the feast days. I'm not saying turning them into a ritual. I'm not saying doing ritualistic stuff, but if it's the Feast of Sukkot, why not put up a tent and build a fire? Some of these things that we could do to celebrate Jesus throughout the year, the way he also celebrated, I think. But you could tell me what you think.
In my opinion, the Most High wants us and has actually mandated that we celebrate the Levitical feast days. And the reason being is because they have very deep importance and significance in the meaning of, even Yahushua as Savior Messiah. Like, for instance, we know that when you break down the name of God, the Yod He Vod He, the 4 letters of the Tetragrammaton, that in the Paleo Hebrew, in the pictographic language of the Paleo Hebrew, that those 4 letters mean behold the hand, behold the nail. And so the 4 letters of the Father's name are actually pointing to and alluding to the coming of the Son as Savior Messiah. And that the name of Yahushua, which that's his Hebrew name, Yeshua, is the Aramaic name, but that his name means Yah's salvation, or Yah is my salvation, my Savior. And so it's pointing to that Christ would be given the role, the mission of redeeming humanity, and that he would be born of a virgin, immaculately conceived, and enter into flesh in order to redeem us and to restore us from our fallen, our entering into this flesh world, into mortal embodiment, and being cast down into this fallen world, this place where we learn through the lesson of duality and where we are under the authority of death. And so once you understand that, you understand also in studying the Levitical feast days that there are 7 that are mandated in Leviticus 23. And that is Pesach, which is Passover. And then you have on the 15th of Nisan, unleavened bread. The 16th of Nisan, first fruits. And on the 7th perfect Sabbath after the Sabbath of the 15th of Nisan, which is a full moon Sabbath, the first month, either March or April, depending on the Enochian calendar and how it lines up for that year. But anyways, in 7 weeks thereafter, on the day after the 7th Sabbath, which is the 9th of Sivan, you have Passover, or not Passover, but Pentecost, or what is called Shavuot. And how these feasts align with the coming of Christ is that if you study and you look at even when he was crucified and placed on the cross about 3 p.m. on the 14th of Nisan, which is about the time that the Jews traditionally would select, would bring forth the lamb for slaughter for the Passover meal. And that Passover was a celebration of when they were in bondage in Egypt, and how the angel of death would that night pass over Egypt. And because they had marked their doorposts with the blood of the Passover lamb, and that they had marked it in the shape of a tah, which is the Hebrew letter for T, which is in the shape of and form of a cross, a partial cross, like a T. That you know that it was because of them, excuse me, excuse me, but it was because they marked their doors with this particular symbol that the children within were protected and preserved, and all of the Israelites were protected from the judgment of the Passover angel that night. And then with regard to the fall feasts, a lot of people don't know that the three remaining fall feasts, which is Yom Teruah, the Feast of Tabernacles, and Yom Hibburim, which is the Day of Atonement, and Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles, that these particular feasts will be fulfilled by Christ in his second coming, and that on the Feast of Trumpets at a later date in the future, he will return on this day, and that's when the seventh trump will be sounded, because it's always on the Feast of Trumpets that the shofar is blown in order to announce the appearance of the waxing crescent. And so when the seventh trumpet is sounded in that day, that's when the church will actually be raptured and preserved from the wrath of God, which is about to be poured out on the wicked and those not written into the books of life. And then you have where Christ, after pouring out the wrath of God, he will take his judgment seat on the Day of Atonement, and that's when every knee shall bow, every tongue confess, and the wheat will be separated from the chaff, the tares. And then, God willing, we will all be numbered amongst the elite, the elect, and the wheat. And then on the 15th of Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles, New Jerusalem will descend out of the heavens, come here to the earth, and then the righteous will be allowed to enter therein. And it will be for the 1,000 years of the millennial Sabbath rest that we, God willing, will be with the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit in New Jerusalem, which is the home of the righteous. It's paradise descended down here to the earth. And so understanding that the Levitical feast days are connected to the first and second advent of Christ, and that even Adam's banishment from paradise was said to happen on Yom Teruah, which is the first of Tishri, on the waxing crescent, the first day of the seventh month on the Enochian Hebrew calendar. And so when you understand these things, in my opinion, God wants us to celebrate the Levitical feast days. And my family and myself, I can't even tell you, it's been 6 or 7 years now that we've been honoring the Levitical feast days and not celebrating. We don't celebrate any of the pagan holidays, Easter, Christmas. We do celebrate Thanksgiving, but in my opinion, that's not a pagan holiday, and it's actually one of the holy days or celebrations, holidays where God is, we show gratitude and give thanksgiving to him for the bounty he pours out upon us. And I think, that should be every day. That Thanksgiving should be every day, but at least it being celebrated once a year, I think that's a very good thing. But in my opinion, I tend to try to celebrate that every day, because I'm grateful to him for everything and all the bounty that God pours upon all of us every day. And I believe every day is a blessing. Every new dream, every chance that we wake up to new opportunity and new life, it's an incredible and awesome blessing, in that we should be grateful and honor our Maker, our Creator, for allowing us that chance and that renewed opportunity. And so that's why we celebrate the Levitical feast days and not the pagan holidays.
On my channel, I have someone that's helping teach, and every Friday we talk about something about the feast days. And right now, of course, we're talking about Hanukkah. And so even though my dad was very disappointed in my choice to not celebrate the pagan Christmas holiday, my mom gave me a menorah for my birthday, which was yesterday.
That's awesome.
I know. So she gave me a menorah, and she gave me candles, and she gave me a little book on why the Jews do that stuff. Now, interestingly enough, my parents are both Catholic, but my mom has had this love for understanding Jewish tradition. So there's something that we connect with on that. And so it may turn out that her and I celebrate these feast days together in a way. And I would have a family member to do that with, including my own children, of course. And then, my dad can choose not to be a part of it. I think it will be a total blessing. And so I already feel good about it. And I pray for truth and discernment, wisdom from the Lord alone. And that even though I get truth from Zen Garcia, I pray that the Lord guides me, and that is truth, right? So, and I feel strongly. Everything you just said was perfect. It was a great overview of exactly what I'm learning, but would have never been able to say it that well at all yet. But that's where I'm at. I'm on that learning, which is why we're talking about this. It has to actually do with the same subject. Another thing, I was listening to somebody talk about Santa, and how interesting this was, is how odd it is that, and of course we know this, it probably occurred to everybody else, so forgive me, but how creepy it is that he's all knowing, right? He knows who's naughty, who's nice. He sees you when you're sleeping
Right.
and when you're awake. And he also seems to be omnipresent, because over Christmas one night, he can be everywhere all at once, giving presents. So to me, it points to someone other than the Lord Jesus Christ, our God and our Savior, the God, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, as being all knowing and omnipresent. And that should have hit me like a ton of bricks long before now. And yet it didn't. It didn't hit me like that. And so I just recently heard that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's right. He's all knowing and omnipresent. He's omniscient, omnipresent. And so why would we ever want to believe in a creature like that? And of course, elves, which I know you obviously have probably a great understanding. My understanding just comes from Gary Wayne in particular, when he's been on my show about the elf bloodline. But maybe you could teach us more on that. I'd be interested to hear what you know.
Yeah, well, the elven bloodlines, or the fairy people, they are said to be, one of those that came out as far as the, like even the giants were children of the angels that were created from their taking wives of all which they chose from the daughters of Cain, which they were already a hybrid species. They were reptilian, seraphic in nature and appearance. And so we have all of these hybrid bloodlines coming forth from these particular progeny, the children of Cain. And so they literally are the children of the devil. And so when you see, it's interesting that Santa, that it's like an anagram almost, because Santa also, if you rearrange the letters, spells Satan. And it's interesting that Satan lives at the North Pole, that the bottomless pit, the abysmal chasm, the opening to the hollow earth entrance and down into Sheol, that is the place that he was cast out of the heavens. And where he says in Isaiah 14, I will exalt my throne above the stars and the clouds of God. and that I will establish my throne in the sides of the north above the mount of the congregation. The mount of the congregation is located at the North Pole, below what is Polaris. And Polaris is exactly where the throne of the Most High God is established. That is the center of the vaulted dome of the earth. And so when you understand the dynamics of what he is speaking about, it says in Isaiah 14 that whereas you want it to be like the Most High, I will cast you down to the sides of the pit. And then we see in Job chapter 1, he says to God, when the council of the mighty is gathered and the sons of God come, where have you been? He says, I've been wandering to and fro, up and down within the interior of the earth. And so the reason he says that is because when God cast him out of the heavens, he threw him down from Polaris and into what is the bottomless pit, into the sides of the pit. And that place is the abysmal chasm, which is located, it's a whirlpool which is located around the Mount of the Congregation, Mount Zion, or what is Mount Olympus, the Rupus Negra, the Black Rock, which is a huge lodestone metallic rock that is at the center of the earth plane. And it's the reason why all the compasses point north. This particular magnetic lodestone rock sits at the center of the earth and is the tallest mountain. The Mount of the Congregation, it rises to what is the throne of the Most High God. And so his domain, Satan's domain, we know, is in the interior of the earth, Sheol. And so where it says that Santa lives at the North Pole, it's because Santa is Satan, and Satan is the one that lives at the North Pole in the sides of the pit, in the interior of Sheol. And so, they don't tell you all these things, but this is the truth of the matter.
That makes a good amount of sense. And then you just think of all the, the way they got Christians, I guess, involved. It would be curious, like was it the Catholic Church maybe that really moved everybody over to that? Maybe it was Constantine that got all these Christians to move into that. And then now they've got all the non-Christians, like the secular people, by believing in Santa. Well, and Christians too, but by the Santa and the presents. And you see all these movies about what a magical time that Christmas is, and that everybody should want to have love for each other at this time of year. And it's like, man, breaking the programming of growing up loving Christmas is not really that hard, but sad. It's been, just kind of sad for me. So I'm so glad that my children are going to grow up so differently. Now, they may choose that, Mom, we grow up and we don't agree with you, and so we're going to do things differently. And I hope that's not the case. I pray it's not. But they're going to be allowed to do that. That's exactly what we're given as free will. And so they may choose to grow up and feel differently, but they're going to have a way better backbone and foundation than anything I ever had. I mean, we're talking about finances. I grew up thinking that we should just get credit cards and let those do everything for us, which is why I had an enormous amount of debt that I had to fix. But I also grew up loving Christmas. My mom and I, that was like the holiday that we shared. But I also grew up with atheistic parents. Now, my mom says that she was agnostic, which is probably true. But for all I knew, they didn't believe in anything. Yeah. And my mom even talked down about the Bible. And so while we wean ourselves off of these things, like we didn't celebrate Halloween last year and this year, and now we're not celebrating Christmas the way that we would. And my children, being young, they have not complained. They have not said, I think this is really unfair. Right. Thank you, Jesus. They've not said this is unfair. This is not cool. Because I'm also not saying, don't enjoy the day. I'm not saying, sorry, we have to hate this day. Instead, I'm like, if you want to see Christmas lights and think they look cool, fine. Let's see Christmas lights and say, well, that looks pretty neat how they decorated that. I mean, you've got to have a balance. We can't just be shunning the world because the world, most of people are doing those things. How can we
Right.
bring people into our circle if we tell them everything they're doing is wrong, or act like, or look down our noses at them? Which I'm talking
Right.
about me. I'm talking about me. I have to be careful about that, because I can't just go, now that I know the truth, how do you not know? And oh, look at that pagan with his decorations and that pagan with her decorations. Instead, we have to have compassion,
Yeah.
just like it says in Jude chapter 1 verse 17, and persevere through these people, and have compassion for some, because we can't just, it's like when we first learned truth about anything, right? We just wanted to tell everybody. We wanted to tell everybody,
Right.
but it turned off so many people. And so now, especially you, as long as you've been doing this, but myself now, I've come to a place where I want to be more of an example. And while I'm going to tell some people why I'm doing it, I don't need to go to my neighbor and go, oh, so you've got a Christmas tree. You want to hear about what I know about the Christmas tree? unless I feel like I have to check that person as a Christian to try to protect them. In that case, that would be different. Real quick, I just want to say, HAL 9000, it looks like the Nightbot deleted your message, and I don't know why, but that was none of us. So HAL 9000 came in, and Nightbot, oh, they posted a link. Okay. So somebody, if you guess, you can't post a link if you're not if you don't have a wrench, but Nightbot will get you. Anyway, back to what I was saying. I'm just learning myself to have compassion and love for people, especially with the mask thing, especially with what we're going with all that. I'm trying not to give dirty looks to people who have masks on, because that's 99% of people. So I just wanted to give them a little bit about me. It's been nice that my children have accepted this, and yet I'm not just ripping it off like out of their life and saying we don't get to enjoy some of these things. But of course, we're not going to go to a fake Santa. I don't tell them lies. That's another thing, is I don't lie to them. I haven't lied to them about Santa really ever. In the elf on the shelf thing, they love it because they think it's cute, but they know that I move it around. And don't condemn me for having an elf on the shelf. I get it with the elf bloodlines. But these are before, I've had these things before I knew. These are things that I've had around, didn't know. Again, first year without the tree, things like that. So I never lied to them about how elf moves around. I've never lied to them about whether Santa really comes and brings a present. And I think I'm going to say one more thing about that. That's a big deal, because people think it's funny and cute when you portray your child about Santa for some reason. There was a little girl that had written a letter to her parents how angry she was that her parents had lied to her and betrayed her about the truth about Santa.
I know.
And everybody thought
horrible.
it was funny and cute. And they shared it. It went viral. What a funny, cute little thing that this girl was mad about finding out the truth about Santa. And I'm sitting here going, that's really unfortunate that she can't trust. She can't trust her parents. They're liars to her.
Right. Why would any kid trust their parents about anything after finding out about that? And
it's not funny or cute. So yeah, anyway, I'll turn it back to you, but it is something that people don't think about because they've gotten so used to lying to their kids, and that's just the way it is. But of course, like, you find out the truth, and it can be traumatizing. And you could say, why, oh, Santa, and people like to do that. It's just Santa, who cares? I mean, you're gonna have to learn the truth eventually. But these are children, and these things can traumatize them because they have faith that Jesus says that we should have. They will believe to know to the ends of the earth about what you tell them, because they trust you as a parent and as an adult that what you're saying is true. So please don't lie to your kids about anything.
Right. Yeah, because you could end up paying for that later, and it could cost you more than what you realize. And why anybody would want to support, that Santa or Satan living at the North Pole came and bought all your kids all these Christmas presents and brought it to them when you're spending your hard-earned money, to do these presents out of the kindness and lovingness of your heart, and wanting to give your kids and take part and celebrate in this pagan holiday when you don't know better is just beyond me. I don't get it. But yeah, I'm so glad that my family, that we aren't involved in the whole commercialization. And even a lot of churches celebrate Halloween, which is just
Oh, I
absolutely bizarre
know.
to me, because people are literally being sacrificed and
Yes,
killed
and
and
children.
tortured to death. Yeah, a lot of children that day. That's a high holy day for the Satanists, and why you would want to take part in something evil like that is just beyond me. And but people do, and they want their children to go get that candy, trick or treat. I mean, it's bizarre.
Right. I stopped that last year because I said I don't want to put a jack-o'-lantern on my door and have kids saying trick or treat when I open the door because I'm just letting in spirits. And
Mhm.
I explained to people, I said, yeah, maybe I could clean the house after that. I could probably go and cast off a lot of these spirits, but eventually it becomes difficult. I compare it to mud. And I know everybody's probably tired of me saying this, but I compare it to mud in my house. The more mud I get in my house, the more tired I get trying to clean it, and the more I'm just gonna not clean it as well, and I'm gonna invite more problems into my house that I can't even take care of. So, I mean, I guess when you don't know, you don't notice the evil that you're inviting into your house, so you don't sense it. You don't understand that kingdom of heaven, and so you don't see the spiritual battle. But once you know, why would you ever want to invite it into your home?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Fully agree. And again, the people just don't know better. And that's why I think that it's important for people to do the study on the pagan origins of the holidays and not the holy days, because the whole true holy days, again, are the Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, um, Pentecost or Shavuot, Yom Teruah, the Feast of Trumpets, and Day of Atonement, and then the Feast of Tabernacles. Those are the true holy days, and so people should come to learn about them, because if you do, you'll see they're intimately connected to Christ. And I didn't even expound upon, that he was the Passover lamb. Crucified, he died on the evening of the 14th of Nisan, was entombed, and then resurrected on the 16th of Nisan, which for the Feast of First Fruits, most people don't realize, but that's when the high priest does a wave offering. He does the wave offering of the barley sheaf, which is the first crop to ripen. It's the first of the winter crops, and the Jews, they will eat of the old crop until the first offering of the first fruits on that particular day, the 16th of Nisan. And because the barley crop is the first to become ripe, they dedicate and bring their offering to the temple. And then after the high priest does the wave offering, then they begin to eat of the New Year's crop. And then you have, for the 7 weeks leading up to Pentecost, the offering of a different crop. And the Jews celebrate, the Israelites celebrate the barley, the wheat, pomegranates, figs, oil, the olive in the form of oil, the grape in the form of wine, and the date. I believe those are the seven. And so they do an offering each of the 7 weeks leading up to Pentecost. And Pentecost, for those don't know, that's when they received the law on Mount Sinai, that Moshe received the law. And this is also the day that the Holy Spirit came upon the apostles and filled them with the gift, with the knowledge of the speaking in tongues, which for those that don't know, also, I just shared this in a show that I did on the teachings of the apostles, that before they gathered for and were filled by the Holy Spirit, they drew straws to see to which land they would go to in doing the work of the Great Commission, to bring forth the gospel, to share the good news of salvation through Christ. And each one was to be sent to a different land. what a lot of people don't know is that when they were speaking in tongues, and when they were filled with the Holy Spirit, that they actually retained the knowledge of how to speak in that language, so that when they were sent to that land, they were able to communicate and to speak with the native people of that land that they were selected to go to. And so the speaking in tongues was a gift that was given to them, and that when they spoke and all the people heard them in their own language, that was a permanent blessing upon them, and that when they were sent out to that land, it was part of the work that the Holy Spirit gave to them in being able to speak that language, so that they could do the work of, teaching the people the good news of the gospel.
Somebody made a good point about the colors that Santa wears, which is black, white, red, and gold, which is Hermetic alchemy. When they are in the black area of their ascension, that's when their eyes are closed, and then the white is when their eyes are open. The red is when they accept, when they come to acceptance of this ascension that they think they're coming to. And when I say they, I'm talking about anybody who believes in Hermetic alchemy, and that sort of, which is a lot of pagans, right? A lot of the elite, a lot of the evil reptilian types, and then gold is their true ascension. And so, of course, he would be red or black and white and red and gold in nature for his colors.
Question is, how are we to offer it to Yah about the question of the crops? In the book that I wrote, The Flat Earth as Key to Decrypt the Book of Enoch, I explain how it is that I have set up an altar in my house, and that I recommend people have an altar outside of their house as well. And that whereas I used to have my altar facing east towards Jerusalem, I now, because I know that God sits upon the throne of the earth on above Polaris, my altar faces north towards the throne room. And in offering on first fruits, that even if you don't offer barley, whatever, that I like to offer some of all the different fruits. Like I'll just get a basket of fruits and nuts, even fine flour, even wine. I even offer aloe water sometimes. And so that you can do the same just on the day of first fruits, the 16th of Nisan. Go and place upon, a rock that's not been touched by iron, not been worked by any tool, but just a normal rock, and offer, these first fruits, offer whatever fruits, nuts, you can pour out wine, milk, fine flour, whatever. Just offering a wide variety of crops, and just to show gratitude. And I just pray over it and thank the Most High for providing all these things for us. And anybody can do that. And I think that in showing gratitude and acknowledging the Most High for all the bounty that he pours upon us, that I think this is a great way to celebrate that particular feast day, and that anybody can do it. And so that's one way you may consider doing that. But anyways, we have arrived at the end of the show, Erin. It's always a pleasure, sister. It was a really good show, and I appreciate you and appreciate the listening audience. We love all of you and hope that you remain blessed.
Thank you again so much.
Yeah, no problem. And we'll do it again very soon. Join us tomorrow night. I'll be on with Rob Skiba on my show Secrets Revealed, and we will be continuing our Genesis Revisited examination of the Pentateuch. Until then, be blessed all. Good night.
Peace.
Shalom.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this video and this broadcast. We appreciate all of you and thank you for your patronage. Please do like and subscribe and share with your friends. God bless all of you in your seeking.